Wow.
Okay, you can start.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And hello, everyone, and welcome to the September 30th, 2020 meeting of the CB6 Business Affairs and Licensing Committee meeting. My name is Claire Brennan, and I'm the chair of this committee. This meeting is called to order at 6:33 p.m. Tonight, we are joined by Community Associate Alex Crawford and District Manager Jesus Perez. Thank you both for being here. Members of the public, you can raise any questions or comments that you have through the question and answer feature of Zoom. If there's time following the committee's discussion, we will field questions from the public. Michael DeVrue has volunteered to take minutes tonight. Thank you, Michael. He's a new member, so we appreciate it extra for you stepping up to do that tonight. We'll now take attendance by roll call, and Alexandra will conduct the roll call.
Okay, I'm going to start the roll call. So Claire Brennan.
I'm here.
Charles Fernandez.
Present.
Paige Judge. Paige Judge. Anton Malner.
Present.
Seema Shah.
Present.
Susan Steinberg.
Present.
Michael Devereaux. Michael?
Present.
Okay. Daniel Devine. Daniel Devine. Jeannie D'Onofrio.
Present.
John Keller.
Present.
Kevin O'Keefe.
Present.
Okay, we do have quorum.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alex. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and appears on the screen before you. If there's no objection, we'll adopt the agenda as stated.
Claire.
Sorry.
Paige.
Hi, Paige. Welcome.
Thank you.
Alex, Paige is here now, so.
Yeah, Paige, I will mark you as present.
Thank you.
Thank you. So if there is no objection to this agenda, we will adopt it as stated. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the agenda, you may raise your hand now through Zoom. Seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. Now we will adopt the minutes. The minutes from the July 29th committee meeting were distributed ahead of time. And just a reminder, we didn't have an August meeting. So these are the most recent minutes. If there's no objection, we will adopt these minutes as drafted. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting these minutes, you may raise your hand now through Zoom. Seeing no objections, the minutes from the July 29th meeting are adopted and will soon be available on the CB6 website. So now to the ground rules, which you're all familiar with, but I'll run through them pretty quickly here. No one may speak until granted the floor. So that means raise your hand if you want to say something and I'll call on you. Committee members, if you have a question about committee business or wish to make a motion, raise your hand through Zoom. In order to do that, click the participants icon. The participants panel should appear and you should find the raise hand function there. If you still have technical difficulty, you may click the chat icon in order to relay your difficulty to someone who can help. The chat function should not be used for committee business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties you are having or to state in writing information like an email address or other contact information that was already stated out loud on the record during the meeting. When a committee member is given the floor to speak, I will identify you and you can unmute yourself so you can speak. We are required by New York State law to have a transcript of the meeting, so please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to the discussion. So the order of the adopted agenda will be followed. And first up, we are very lucky to have Beth Torin here to lead us on a discussion on ghost restaurants. Some committee members and also board members have kind of noticed new restaurants in the district popping up recently and operating for online only platforms that have no, traceable address. And we just want to kind of learn a little bit more about this and make committee members aware. And Beth is experienced in the issue and health licensing in general. So we're very lucky to have her here, and she's going to share a little bit more about the situation and help us think more about it and converse about the issue. So thank you so much, Beth, again, for being here. Really appreciate your expertise. And without further ado, I think you should probably be able to share.
Yeah, I just gave Beth the ability to share the screen, but let me know if you have any, if you're having trouble.
Thank you. And I also think you are muted right now, Beth. So whenever you're ready. Love it already. Very cute graphic. But Beth, sorry, we actually can't hear you. If you could just unmute yourself. Sorry about that.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
A little technological challenge there. My name is Beth Torin. I'm the former executive director for the Office of Food Safety, the City of New York. I retired from that position right before COVID, which was a miracle. And now I work as a consultant in the industry, helping restaurants deal with the Department of Health and other city agencies. So what is a ghost kitchen? Let me just get this. Okay, so it should be on slideshow now. What is a ghost kitchen? Well, to start with, the reason behind ghost kitchens is that last year, 1 in 4 Americans used an app to order food. They're expecting that by 2025, online ordering could be more than a $200 billion business globally. This started before COVID. And at that time, when I was working for the health department, and we would get a lot of complaints. We had one person in particular that would go through the Seamless restaurants, and then he would go to check out the address, and there would be no address there. So we had no idea where the food was being made. Many of them were being made in ghost kitchens. The rest, we don't know where they were being made because they were not traceable. At that time, the city legal department met with Seamless to make sure that every restaurant on there could be easily identified and had a permit. So a ghost kitchen, it's where usually virtual brands are produced without a brick and mortar location. They're made solely for producing virtual brands. They're also known as virtual kitchens. And what it is it's a delivery only concept sold exclusively online and through delivery apps. So for example, if there's a food truck, and a really good example is, and I can't remember the name. So a food truck that sells hamburgers in its physical location, they can have a secondary business, which is, for example, a taco business, and it's sold only through deliveries. Oh, the Halal Boys. Remember, they were just a truck. And now we have a restaurant in the neighborhood. But they're a good concept for somebody who would want to do a virtual kitchen or a ghost kitchen, because most of their business is through food trucks. Everybody knows their name. And even in their restaurant on 14th Street, there's very little eat in. It's mostly takeout and delivery. So this is for these restaurants. So one kitchen, you have a kitchen and you can make a variety of food and brand your own. And I just use, so I can have a kitchen, get a permit from the Department of Health and sell like Chicken Delight, Mama's Pasta, Rachel Mexicana, and McDolan burgers. And they would all come out of the same commissary and the same address, but I'm selling them as different brands. And what I'm doing is perfectly legal because I'm a delivery only establishment. Some of the virtual concepts and ghost kitchens might allow for pickup, but most of them are just totally for delivery. And during COVID, delivery became very, very popular. We weren't allowed to eat in, so everybody was getting their food delivered, and that increased the business for the virtual kitchens. The theory behind them is that they will help an operation create delivery favorites without the traditional overhead. There's multiple options sold from a single location. And one of the big problems the restaurant industry is experiencing right now is lack of staff. For some reason, all of the restaurant workers disappeared. And everybody that I do business with, or everybody that you talk to, tells you they can't get staff. They're short-staffed. We're short-staffed. We can't do this. And nobody's applying for the jobs. So without having a restaurant and doing everything that you need to do to keep a restaurant operational, a virtual kitchen or a kitchen where you just do delivery is becoming very desirable, because you could have 1, 2, or 3 employees on site and produce enough food to do delivery only of 3 or 4 different brands. Also, customers don't know where the food is coming from, so you can have a healthy option and a non-healthy option under 2 different names in the same facility, and sell it to your customers. And this is just an example of what's happening on Seamless with these ghost kitchens. I'm sure many of you have heard of Guy Ferrari. He started Flavortown, and we have Flavortown here in New York. It's virtual. You cannot go in, you cannot eat there. It's a ghost kitchen that you get delivery from. But back in November, Seamless created a page for him. This was in Massachusetts, and they gave the address of the mall, but there was no Flavortown at the mall. They just used this address. And then there was another page that used the same address, and it was called Mr. Beast Burger. They couldn't find any information on Flavortown, but they were able to find information on Beast Burger, but they also used the address of the mall, even though they were non-existent. It's a virtual restaurant. They only get deliveries from the ghost kitchen, and it is trying to lure other businesses there so that they can have more brands for their location. But any of these places can put up an address, and unfortunately, the health department does not have the people to trace them. And it's a little scary because I know I like to know where my food is coming from. I like to actually look at the kitchen, which makes me not eat out a lot. Okay, so I already said this, the pandemic's closed, restaurants are dining in, and people are not eating out as much as they used to, but they are ordering out. And every restaurant you talk to, food delivery is exploding. They love it because it's going along with the decreased staff. Unfortunately, because of these apps, Seamless and Uber Eats and all of them, they're charging these restaurants a lot of money, sometimes 20% or 30%. I believe the city council has put in some regulations stopping this, but can you imagine you do all the work and they're taking 20% to deliver it? But because the restaurants can't get delivery people and most people now go online, it's an easier way for them to do business, and they almost have to pay these companies whatever percentage they want. But ghost kitchens are a way of trying to fix the problem, because they're able to negotiate with these companies because they have so many different brands, and they're doing such a big business. And just like a little editorial comment here, I personally feel that we should be helping all of our small business neighbors. So when you go to order something, order from the restaurant directly. And they might tell you, I can't take the order. But if you notice, the price is cheaper sometimes when you order directly from the restaurant, but they're getting 100% of that sale. So I know there's a diner. You go to 23rd Street, right? Okay. So Orion Diner, I order from all the time. And I'm not saying whether they're a good or bad place to eat, but I order from them. And I found out that by ordering on Seamless, Seamless was taking 20% of the profits. So now I go directly to their website and I order, and it's just as easy for me. Little editorial there. So I think we need to support our local businesses. But they're also, the trend in the industry is for delivery. And there's a lot going on in the food industry. Something just came out today that said 50% of the existing restaurants in this country can't pay their rent this month because they were out of business for so long, and people are still not coming back. If you notice, our restaurants are not as busy as they used to be. So everybody's hoping that delivery will help them to stay in business. So these ghost kitchens are some way to maybe fix the problem. You don't have to have a big space. You don't have to go rent a warehouse. I can have a restaurant, and let's say I own a diner on First Avenue and I decide I'm not making money and I have a big kitchen. I can make the kitchen into a ghost kitchen. I can prepare 5 or 6 different brands, list them on Seamless, as I could have Chinese food, Mexican food, Italian food, and hamburgers. And people think they're ordering from 4 different restaurants. My overhead goes down. I don't have to have my dining room. And probably business will stay the same because people are happy to have food delivered. So again, back to Guy Ferrari. It's Flavortown Kitchen is a delivery only restaurant from him. He is, since he's somebody that most people know and have heard of, when he came out with the ghost kitchen, suddenly ghost kitchens became very, very popular. He has one here in Manhattan. I do not know where it is. I have ordered from it, and I'm not going to say whether it was good or bad, but I wouldn't order from them again. Okay. And here, for example, this is just another little picture of him, and they're doing something with a Neem creator, R. Randberger. So again, he's doing all these things to get people to come and order or to submit orders to his kitchen. And in Manhattan, we all know real estate is really expensive. He probably has a big kitchen somewhere, and they're selling and they're delivering to all over the 5 boroughs. But if you go online, you will not be able to find out where this kitchen is. Walmart started something. It's called they have an iCloud kitchen. You can partner with Walmart, and some of the big brands that you see on the turnpike or on the parkways or at rest stops or in the airports, they're starting to produce their food in partnership with Walmart in an iCloud kitchen. And some of those are Cinnabon, Jamba Juice, Salad Works, and Quiznos. And those are all companies who are having trouble maintaining their stores. So they're used to working in a smaller space, and they're also used to sharing space. So they're now all working out of some iCloud kitchens, and they're a partner with Walmart. I can say for you all, if you find that there's a ghost kitchen and you know where it is, find out if they have a permit. If they're not permitted, you don't want to eat there. If you put in an order, you can call them and ask them what their permit number is, or you can call the Department of Health. Unfortunately, someone like Guy Ferrari, we can ask about his place and somebody will know, but they don't know what it's permitted as. So it's very scary for the consumer because you don't really know where your food is coming from. And because they're hard to monitor, I could be making it in my kitchen here in my apartment and nobody would know. So in the health department, they are looking at a way to permit these, but there are all those people out there now that are permitting, that are selling food from home. And there's actually some websites where you can go to and buy food from, quote, a home chef. So that's something that you really don't want to do. Here in New York, we also have shared kitchens, and those are all permitted. They're for people who want to start a small business, don't have the money for a brick and mortar restaurant, so they buy time in a shared kitchen. They're permitted, they're inspected, and they then can sell wherever they want to sell. A lot of people who sell at the markets or online now, etc., they're using these shared kitchens. So that's basically it. This is me, Better Call Beth, food safety, design, and protection. But they're scary in a way, the ghost kitchens, because you don't know who's making your food. But I foresee within the next year, New York City will have regulations on them because other jurisdictions are starting to have regulations. But again, there's always the people that skirt the issue. So my recommendation is if you're ordering on Seamless and there's no address, and suddenly a new Chinese restaurant or Greek restaurant popped up in the neighborhood and you don't know, that it's not there because it's right next door to you, I would not order from them. So does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Beth. That was very
welcome.
Concise and informative. I know I have a question, so I might pass it to myself first, but I'm sure other panelists have questions too. And I'll also open it to the public because I think some folks saw you on the agenda and joined because they're interested in the issue as well. So you kind of answered this question. So you suggested that we reach out to the restaurant directly to see if and ask for their permit. But is there a way on these like third-party apps to see establishments permits, or it has to be like a direct call and you have to kind of luck out in order to?
It really has to be a direct call. And if they can't give you a number or they hang up on you or they don't order from them.
And is there like a next step? Is it like, should we talk to 311 about that?
I would then call 311 and it'll go to the health department. But when I used to work there, we spent a lot of time and energy tracking down these ghost kitchens and you couldn't find them. So we would have to actually order from them and practically accost the delivery man to find out where he came from.
Right.
And there was one in particular that we felt was operating out of someone's home. So we kind of stayed at that address, and sure enough, we saw the delivery man come out of their apartment. So that we were able at that time to close down. But it's very difficult, and you just have to really be careful. But I really believe there's going to be rules on them very shortly.
That's good to hear. Speaking of, there becoming rules on them, is there a jurisdiction that you're familiar with that is doing it right now that we could look to and kind of like, I definitely see like a resolution coming out of this from our committee to kind of like encourage better monitoring or regulation. But are there any cities that kind of have ghost kitchens and they're regulated well and safe that you know of at this point? Or is it just so new that there's not really
that I'm aware of? And
mm-hmm.
I want to believe that the ones that exist are permitted. But then I like to believe these things and they're doing things the right way. Most, I would say, I wish I knew of a jurisdiction, but what happened is they were always out there and they were kind of under the radar. And then when COVID hit, they became very popular. And now you're hearing all about the virtual and the ghost kitchens. So I really couldn't help you on that, but I'll do some research, and if I can come up with any information, I will get back to you.
Okay, that would be helpful. Yeah, we can definitely do our own research too. I just was wondering if you had something on the top of your head, but appreciate that. It's a very new concept and everyone's
It's a new legal concept.
Right.
Because they've really been around, but they've been underground. And now that everybody is doing delivery, they're becoming more and more popular. And all that you read about the industry is that delivery is the new way to go. Because people don't want to, for the next 5 years, people are probably going to be still very concerned about COVID. So they would much rather get a delivery and eat at home.
Right. Definitely. Yeah, and I'll just second up your suggestion to call the restaurant directly and, bypass any of those added unnecessary fees for them. I see John Keller on our committee has a question, so I'll hand it over to John.
Thank you very much. And let me congratulate you on your logo and your moniker there. It's wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Better call that. So on a more serious note, do they advertise anywhere other than on the delivery apps? Like, do they have web pages, or how do they advertise?
They do. And if you go online and you Google, cloud kitchens or virtual kitchens, or the name of them. And there's a few names out there that are large corporations that are starting them all over the country. But on these slides that I did here, I just happen to know about Flavortown, but this is their website.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess one would assume that Guy Fieri is not going to risk his reputation by having an unlicensed, uninspected kitchen. But I suspect, just as an aside, the weather's been nice. Our windows are open, and about a week ago, I started smelling some really nice Italian food coming from another apartment, and then I thought it's nice, and then the next day I smelled it again and again. So I'm sort of wondering, well, maybe there's going on right under my own nose. So the best thing to do is ask them, and if they don't give you your permit number, just call 311 right away. Is what
right. Okay. And call 311 and report them, and the Department of Health Office of Food Safety will send somebody out to check. And it's amazing how many people sell food out of their homes, and what we used to have to go through to find them and catch them. And the only way to make them stop was we would send letters to their landlord, and they would tell the landlord that this is an apartment zoned for residential and they're running a business and it's going to become your responsibility. And that was really the only way we could stop them.
And Claire, this might be something that we could, as part of a resolution, alert, landlords to be aware of, like they're supposed to be aware of Airbnb in their premises. Thank you. That's all. I won't take any more time.
That would be great. And just to finish this conversation on it, the people that were doing it used to advertise. So you're doing something illegal and you would be all over social media talking about it, and that's how we used to find out about them.
Interesting. I see Jeannie has a question from our committee.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. Just a question. How have you thought about a way to legislate something like this, sort of like the seal of approval, that anybody that's selling these products from their home, anybody that's selling a product online has to get some kind of a seal on their website, just like Twitter gets the blue check mark. It's authentic, it's real, it's got some kind of certification. And if it's not there, then that to ask the question. And then to get to that point, how do we educate the public? Because this is a very interesting conversation, but how do you expand this conversation to say across the 5 boroughs? I know you said that there are it's already being looked at in other areas. I don't know if it's outside of New York City or what, but how do we make this more public facing? Because it's a health concern, as you say. So various departments can get involved in this, I would assume.
I would get a hold of the health department, the Office of Food Safety, and see if they would be willing to work with you on that. Because you're right, it is a big health concern, and people should be aware of it, and they're not. I can only tell you that I think everybody is concerned about food safety, and you would be surprised at how many people knowingly will eat there at a place that they know does not have a permit, or that somebody's handing them a lobster roll through the mail slot in their door. And you want to say, what are you thinking? But I think it would be something that, or even the intergovernmental part of the health department, because it could be a big public health issue, especially if somebody was to get sick, and it would be hard to trace back where it came from. But it's.
I completely agree. Good question, Jeannie. Thank you. I'm wondering if any other committee members have questions. I do see Anne, who is on our board but not in our committee, has a question. So maybe I'll throw it over to Anne. Oh, I think Alexandra, could you give Anne Sligman the ability to
Yeah, give me 1 second.
speak her question out loud? Thank you.
Okay, and you can unmute yourself.
Hey, that work?
That works.
Yeah.
Right. So, I've actually been following this issue for a while, and I come at it from a totally different perspective. I first noticed, I would go on Seamless, as Beth talked about. Like, I'm one of those people, I'm ordering in a lot more than I used to. And also cooking a lot more, like just generally eating more, it seems like. But anyway, um, I I would notice restaurants, and I brought this up to Claire, that are like, that does not exist at that location. And so I kind of started looking into it, and my concern was partly just to like, what the hell? Like, what's going on here? Like, this is weird. Like, I know my neighborhood. But
Mhm.
it was also, I am very much trying to support a local restaurant. And I noticed that if you go to Seamless, and I had this experience literally this week, if you go to Seamless and you search on some, falafel was what I was searching on. Not that I was even going to have it delivered, just wanted some ideas. Um, and when I sorted by distance, there were a couple of places that I just knew didn't exist. And they were delivery only. And so the other angle I have is that I'm trying to support a local business, but in fact, this falafel could be coming from Brooklyn, because that might be where the ghost kitchen is actually located. And so if I'm ordering, a lot of people don't care if they're ordering from Brooklyn, but I do, and I partly do because of what the implications of that are for traffic and e-bikes and pedestrian and other cyclist safety. So, I kind of feel like it's all about transparency. And if you can increase the transparency of like, this is where your food is actually coming from. And I actually have a lot of sympathy for somebody if they want to set something up in the West Village that's going to serve 6 different kinds of food and people want to order from there, that's fine. Just make it clear that that is what's happening.
I agree.
There are also, I would say, in addition to buying directly from restaurants, which I try and do a lot, there are a couple of other alternatives. Deliver Zero is a company, it's sort of a Seamless competitor. They use reusable containers, which is kind of another interesting take on it. And they take a smaller cut from the businesses, and you don't get utensils. And there's another one, Spread, that I have no experience with, but that I've heard of, that's supposed to be kind of commission free for restaurants, and I think they just charge the user. So Beth, I have a couple of questions for you. Um, other than if you see that a restaurant on some delivery site, which I do try and avoid, but it's not 100%, other than being delivery only, and or just knowing like there's nothing there, is there a way to know if something is being made in a ghost kitchen? So that's one.
No.
No.
Only if it says delivery only, you know it is. And if they're not giving an address, you can call up and find out. Just to take back to, you were talking about the company that uses reusable containers.
Uh-huh.
Where are they washing them?
They return to the restaurants and the restaurants are washing them. And my experience with them has been like that they're very clean. Like it's
Okay, so let me just, and again, this is off topic. So you're getting, somebody has a reusable container. They're picking it up from a restaurant. You don't know where they're putting that container and how they're getting it to you. And they're allegedly taking it back to the restaurant for the restaurant to wash and clean it. Personally, I don't think that's very safe.
okay. I mean,
Because I'm just telling you, while you're talking about it, that it's something that there's too much.
I understand your concern. I mean, it is a little off topic, but I'm just saying I haven't had a problem, and it's something people
Okay.
can look into.
I think that that's probably like a personal decision, but I do want to keep it on topic. So
I'm sorry,
yes, No, I completely understand. We have a health expert here, so
I embarrassed my daughter just by breathing.
No,
with food, she's like, "Don't talk, Mom."
It's totally fine. But Anne, can you keep the questions to the ghost restaurant situation?
Yes. The only other question really that I had is how are the permit and the permit process different? So if somebody says, yes, they get a permit, they have a permit, like how would that be different than
It wouldn't. Okay.
It would just be the same as a regular restaurant.
Right. Because right now it's one permit per address. So I can share the space with 6 of my closest and dearest restaurant friends, but one person is holding the permit and one person is responsible. So in a ghost kitchen, it's the same thing. It's either one person is making all of the food for everybody, or in some instances, they have individual people making their own food, but it's one permit, one permittee, and one person who's responsible. So it would be the same permit.
I have a follow-up question. I tend to call directly, but I do have Seamless, but I've never really seen even like a restaurant displaying their permit on.
No, they don't.
Body apps. So
when I worked for the health department, we tried to get Seamless to ask to see their permit for restaurants in New York. And that might be something, if you're going to do a resolution, that you want to see if they can do, is that if it's based in New York City, that Seamless or whoever would have to see that they have a permit before they would, that's just one idea. But other than that, you really don't know.
Right.
It's scary out there.
Scary. Does anyone else have any other questions, or are there motions here? I think that there definitely is space to write a resolution on this because, as Beth mentioned, there's not a lot of oversight or regulation. And I think that we do have some power to push for them to be implemented quicker than, a mystery date. I do see that Marta Cambabadal Gross asked if there's any more information about these regulations that New York City will establish next year. And I think that you had said that we don't know.
Right. That's exactly it. I said that I think they will do it, knowing the health department and how concerned they are about these kind of things. But COVID seems to have everything kind of at a standstill.
Yeah. So maybe a resolution from our committee might, make them a little bit more willing or push it up on their, agenda. Anne has another question, but I think she's back to attendee. So maybe, are you? Oh yeah, Anne, just unmute yourself.
Yeah, I was just gonna also point out that one of the restaurants that I stumbled across that was clearly a ghost restaurant, and I went to the location to see what was there, also had alcohol on their delivery menu, which is no longer legal, and so that was just like something else to look out for, I thought, to mention in a kind of monitoring sense.
Definitely. That is very interesting. Beth, like, I know you said that it's very hard to, excuse me, kind of find these ghost kitchens, and so you might not have the answer to this question, but are you like aware, in our district or maybe in Manhattan, how many ghost kitchens might be operating without any? Yeah, there's no way to know.
No, there's really no way to know. The only way to know is if they are one of the national ones, and then you could find out about a permit, but otherwise, and there's nothing under the current regulations that would stop you from turning your restaurant into a ghost kitchen under a permit, because if you're working under one person, you're good to go there. So, I know we don't have any shared kitchens in our district. So they're all in Queens or Brooklyn or uptown.
Very interesting.
Sorry.
No. You were a wealth of information, and I really appreciate you being
Okay,
here.
and I will put my logo back up instead of Guy, and I will say, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to get a hold of me, and I will put in the, I'll put my email in the notes
Chat,
or
that would
the
be-
chat,
Mhm.
if I can
Yes.
find.
That
Oh,
would
here
be
it is.
Perfect.
Okay, so this is my email for everybody.
Excellent. And I'm just wondering if anyone from the committee has a motion to write a resolution about Beth's presentation. I do agree it is concerning, and I think that the issue needs a little bit more momentum, and we can be a vehicle to kind of encourage the health department to look into these more and perhaps regulate ghost kitchens so it's safer for everyone. If anyone has a motion, you could just unmute yourself or raise your hand. Or
There, maybe if no one has a motion tonight, given that there is a little bit of time on this, maybe some members of the committee can work on a draft resolution.
Okay.
And then, as you guys work on it and perfect it, a motion maybe can come out of that.
love that idea. Thank you.
Excuse me, is a virtual
Paige.
kitchen, the same as a ghost kitchen?
Yes.
Okay, we have one in our neighborhood. And
Yeah,
it's a
so
And where's
very
that?
few- I'm sure they have all their permits.
You do?
It's
You know they
Sergeant.
have their permits?
I would make sure, they've been around 65 years.
Oops, Paige, you just went on mute. Paige, we can't hear you if you're talking. If someone who has like the back end, can they unmute Paige? Or maybe I'll just talk to her offline to get more.
I'm off mute now.
Oh, hi, Paige.
All right. It's a restaurant that's on 3rd Avenue. It's been around for 65 years. I never knew they had one, but I was curious how they're doing so much business and their establishment wouldn't allow to have a kitchen that large. And it's Sergeant's, which is a deli.
Sergeant's Deli. That's good to know. And maybe as we draft a resolution, we can reach out to them and kind of get a little bit more information.
And they advertise it on their shopping bag,
Mhm.
the virtual kitchen.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Paige.
Okay.
Is anyone willing to work together on drafting a resolution on this from the committee? I know Anne was passionate, and maybe you could come in as a, celeb writer. And I assume that's why you're raising your hand, but maybe not. So can we put Anne back as a panelist for now? And then are there any other committee members who are willing to help with this issue? I think it's really important, and it does speak to, safety, and we could be leaders in this effort here and try to get some other boards on board as well. But Anne, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I mean, I am totally speaking out of turn, and I don't want Jean to be mad at me, but I do think there is a transportation connection here.
One moment, I'm not in meeting. Sorry.
Yeah.
Whether there is or not, I am not a great writer, but I'm a really good editor. So if somebody wants to just, throw a few bullet points out there, I'm happy to try and turn it into a reso Claire. Again, I don't want to step on your toes either.
No. Thank you. No one else was really stepping up from our committee, so I'm
Yeah.
grateful for your energy here on this
But
topic.
I'm not doing, somebody else has to do the first draft. And
Yeah.
then I'll take it from there.
Awesome. Okay. So maybe I will do a little side outreach to the committee to see if anyone is willing to help me on a draft that we can send to Anne and have her look over with a fine-tooth comb. Because again, I'm passionate about this, and I think that there is space for change and improvement. And I think that it would be great if we, as a committee, lead the charge here. Jesus.
I have one question for Beth. Using your experience and your expertise in this field, and if you were, say, the person who was tasked with writing legislation about this particular topic, what do you think are the top 1, 2, or 3 things that really should be done to help with this particular phenomenon?
What I think the first thing that you need to do is they need to be identifiable with a permit to ensure that the food is being produced safely and that they're not a public health risk. So once they have a permit, they'll be subject to inspection by the Department of Health. So they'll have to follow the rules and regulations. But that's key, because you really have to know where the food is coming from, where it's being prepared, and that it's being prepared under an approved, all of the approved regulations, and that it's not being made in somebody's basement.
All right.
So I would go for the fact that they would have to be permitted, and somehow people have to be aware of where their permit is, or the address where it's being prepared. The food's being prepared.
So something like more outreach, or drop-ins, or, it sounds a little stalkery and crazy, but it seems like the only way to really find these places are to kind of stake out of the established restaurant. So maybe asking for more oversight of these businesses that aren't really traceable to a permanent address would be something else.
Well, they would have to be traceable to an address and a permit. And what's interesting is the federal government requires that anything that's packaged, even if you're packaging it in your own restaurant, you have to have where it was produced. So there's got to be something they can do about these ghost kitchens, that you have to know where the food's actually being produced. That would be my suggestion.
Claire, it seems like, and this may be a little bit of a heavy lift, but for the members of this committee that ultimately write a resolution, maybe one suggestion could be that since a lot of these kitchens, you walk into a restaurant, oftentimes their permit is hanging up on the wall.
Mhm.
And you can get up there and read it if you want to. Since that's probably not possible for locations that exist only virtually, maybe Seamless can, for their restaurants in New York, maybe have a PDF of the permit right there on the page. You can click on it, and you can. One for maybe all the restaurants. I mean, it's additional information where you can just kind of click, and if you want to see it, you can see it.
Yeah. I think that, I had never really thought about it, but it is a little shocking to know that, you see Seamless reviews or reviews of people who receive deliveries from these businesses on the app, but there is no way to see Ghost Kitchen or not, like what their license is and what their rating is. So I think that we might be taking a step back and thinking more about like delivery in general, but I do think that it's a beautiful thing that the conversation started from Ghost Kitchens, and they are absolutely a separate entity that we'll focus on in the resolution. But I agree, it'll probably be a heavy lift, but I think it's worth a shot, and I'm happy to kind of get the draft started. And if someone is a little shy to help right here, you can email me separately and we can work together on this and think about what's the most compelling language here, because it's a big issue, as Beth explained tonight. And I just want to thank you again for joining us. I think those are all the questions that committee members and attendees had. I appreciate you putting your contact information in the chat, btorin@bettercallbeth.com, for folks who might not see the chat. Anton?
Yeah, I just have an observation. You say, Sarah, a kitchen may brand 3 or 4 or 5 different entities and that are sent out and delivered by these various delivery companies. Now, there are also people who would be operating out of their own apartments or in some basement someplace. They are not going to self-report, I don't think. I think the onus should be on the delivery company to certify or verify that the kitchen from which they're doing the delivery has been vetted and does have a rating. Because otherwise, I could set up a kitchen in the basement of my building, and if the landlord lets me, and sign up with Seamless and DoorDash or whatever, and make food.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree, Anton. And I think the resolution that we draft might be a little bit broader than the agenda item was. So thank you for that observation. Dan, if you have a question, now's your time.
No, and I apologize for being late. I thought it was at 7, but quick observation. I think it's a little bit easier if we draft the resolution kind of twofold. First, to be punitive against obviously the illegal proprietors, but then also, as Anton said, about the app, because I think there are far less apps than there are potentially illegal ghost kitchens. So I think that if we also take that into consideration, it might make it a lot more effective to be more punitive towards the apps, I guess, and in addition to the proprietors.
Yeah, that is a good point. Thank you very much. So I guess I'll get started on the draft. I can send it around to the committee to see if anyone has any additions. And if you think of notes, send them my way as soon as you have them. But again, thank you so much, Beth, for joining us. We'll send you what we come up with after the fact, and maybe along the way, to just have a little bit more insight from you, if you don't mind.
Great.
But really appreciate you being here, and thank you.
Thank you so much. It was nice meeting you all, and have a great rest of your meeting.
Thank you, Beth. Appreciate it.
I just forgot how to leave.
No problem. You can stay too. If you
No,
want.
no. I see the leave button.
Okay.
No,
well,
I'm a consultant now. I have lots of work
Right,
to do at
exactly.
night. Have a good one, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Beth. Take care. Okay, so next on the agenda is a new on-premises license for Sunrise Hospitality, Inc., doing business as Spice Mantra. Do we have a representative from that entity here?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm going to put a 2-minute timer on for you to just walk us through your application, if you don't mind.
Okay, so this is a license for a full liquor, for an application for a full liquor license. It is Spice Mantra. It's located on 2nd Avenue, 1047 2nd Avenue. It's between 55th and 56th Street. There are 10 tables, 36 seats, and 6 stools for the bar. There was a liquor license there originally. It was under the name of Haku Sushi and Asian Cuisine. And that license was there from 2016 and it expired on May 31st of 2020. It's going to be an Indian restaurant. And I think I provided the hours on the application sheet. My client did provide the hours on the application sheet that I submitted, or the questionnaire that I submitted.
And what were those hours, just for folks who didn't get the application?
Because when I sent it to you, I didn't keep a copy of it, and I can't recall what he had indicated they were. I don't think they were open past midnight though, but I'm not 100% sure.
Here, I'm going to share my screen so we can see.
Yeah, I appreciate it. There is also, the other thing I would tell you is there is a certificate of occupancy for this premise, and it is for an eating and drinking establishment. 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Okay, Monday through Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you. So does anyone from the committee have any questions? Sorry, I'm just shifting gears here. But if there are any questions from the committee, I would welcome your hands raised. Okay, what about any members of the public? Are there questions coming from anyone in the public? Seeing none, I would ask if any committee member wanted to offer a proposal for a resolution.
Motion of no objection.
Motion of no objection by Paige
Susan.
and John, or
No,
Susan,
Susan.
sorry, Susan, sorry. Thank you, Susan, and John seconded that motion. So are there any objections from members of the committee for this resolution? I'll give you a few seconds to raise your hand, but I know we didn't meet last week or last month, but this is how we've been doing it on Zoom instead of taking a full vote, just to expedite the meetings that tend to be long. But if anyone does not want to resolve to not object this application, speak now, please. Seeing none, this resolution passes, or motion to resolve passes. And is there someone who would be willing to write the resolution?
I'll take it.
Jeannie? Okay, thank you, Jeannie. I just want to reiterate to the committee too, Jeannie has been doing a lot of resolutions. I took a lot last month. It's really not easy, and you feel accomplished once you do them. We send out a template where you really just fill in the information that Kathleen just shared and what we get on the application. So if you haven't written a resolution in a while, I would encourage you to step up this meeting, and next meeting, I might just cold call on you and ask you to do it, because it really should be a shared responsibility and not the same people doing them every week. So Kathleen, we'll get that resolution to you once it passes through the full board, but thanks for being here, and thanks Jeannie for
having me. Yes, thank you.
Right.
Thank you so much. Take care now.
Resolution. Thank you. So moving on, the next agenda topic is a new on-premises license for Small Plates, Inc. at 204 East 38th Street. Do we have a representative? Michael, I see your hand raised. Thank you for doing that. And you can take the floor and walk us through your application in 2 minutes
Sure.
or less, hopefully. Thank you.
Can you hear me all right, Claire?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Great. So good evening, everyone. Mike Palutis here on behalf of Small Plates, Inc. I'm joined this evening by Frank Shaw. Frank, say hello. All right. Well, he's waving anyway. He's here. Frank is the husband of the owner, DePauli Shaw, but Frank will also be the general manager of the restaurant. So he's going to be involved day to day operationally. This is an application for a restaurant liquor license, as Claire said, at 204 East 38th Street. Also an Indian restaurant, although this will be a vegetarian Indian restaurant. The location was previously licensed as Sons of Thunder, I believe as early as 2005. And in fact, that license is still active and expiring today, but the prior operator has vacated. The method of operations not going to change all that much, except that the new concept is a vegetarian Indian restaurant. It's a small establishment, 20 tables, 40 seats at the tables, 4 seats at the bar, no live music, no DJ, and no outdoor space. Store will be open from 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. daily, and consistent with an vegetarian Indian restaurant. Will not be disruptive to the community. The Shaw family has operated bars and restaurants in New York City for many, many years, beginning in 2010. Most notably, they have operated Ahimsa at 265 East 10th Street, which is what this restaurant will also do business as. This will operate as Ahimsa also. So with that, if you have any questions, we're happy to answer them.
Thank you, Michael. I see Jeannie has a question, so I'll hand it over to her first.
Thanks. Just a quick question. I see that there's an intent to lease out the space or rent out the space on the application. Can you talk about that?
I think at the time that we submitted the questionnaire, the lease might not have been signed yet. So I think we may have only had a letter of intent from the landlord at the time that we submitted the questionnaire. At this point, we do have a signed lease. So there's now a possessory interest, and we can move forward with the application.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant for private parties. The question is, will you be renting out your space for private parties?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yes, let me look at the answer that was included there.
It's on the 5th page of the questionnaire.
Excuse me. So I believe the answer to that, and I'll let Frank speak to it, is that occasionally we'll have a private party of some description. Frank, are you off of mute? Can you speak to that? We can't hear you, Frank.
I don't even see a Frank on here.
So he has my name in his window. He's the gentleman with glasses on.
Oh, okay.
The other
Sorry.
Michael Palutis, yeah.
Can Frank's name be stated for the record? And Alex, can we then change his name on the Zoom just so we can have a record?
Yeah.
Sure. His name is Falgun, Falgun, Shaw, Shaw. Frank.
Okay, so maybe unmute yourself now, Frank, and we'll see if that works. Yeah, we still can't hear you, unfortunately.
Jeannie, my understanding is that there will occasionally be a private party in the restaurant. It's
that's
not,
fine.
there's not going to be third-party promoters. They're not going to be renting the place out to, that type of party. To the
Okay.
extent it will close, it will be, for a birthday party or some
Mhm.
sort of private
Great.
event. But
All right, thank
yeah,
you. Understood.
but it's
Thank
also not anticipated that that will be done with any regularity. Okay.
And I think it's understood that if, should the space be rented out for a private party, all of the stipulations that you stated in the application will hold true, and it won't go
Yeah.
later than the hours of operation or leave the space if you aren't planning on using outdoor space. So,
Understood.
okay, thank you. Are there any other questions from folks on the committee? Seema?
No questions, but I've been to the other Ahimsa locations and have really enjoyed the vibe and the food, and it's, really kind of neighborhood based. So just wanted to offer that feedback.
That's great feedback.
Thank you.
I'll have to check it out. Thank you, Seema. Are there any motions?
I'd like to make a motion of no objection. This is Seema.
Thanks,
I'll
Seema.
second.
Anton seconds that. And who will write the resolution?
I'll write the resolution.
Thanks, Susan. Appreciate it.
By
John,
the way, I take yoga, and I think ahimsa means no self-harming or no harming. Is that correct?
That's good to know. If it is.
Yeah, it means nonviolence. It means nonviolence. Yeah.
Cool. Learned something today. Well, thank you for being
Thank
here,
you all.
both of you, and talking us through this. Thanks to Susan for writing this reso. I did think I saw John's hand up, but now it's down. So
No, I can take a hit. I was going to volunteer to write the resolution.
ooh,
but
okay,
I'll
well, we
wait
have
till the next
a
one.
few more coming up. Thanks, John.
Thank you very much. Good
And
night.
thank you, Michael, for being here, and thank you,
Bye.
Frank, and look forward to tasting your restaurant. Next up on the agenda, I'm not sure if there is a representative here from the fourth item. Alexandra, did they show up? Is someone here to speak on behalf of the new on-premises license for SIP-SAC NYC, doing business as SIP-SAC at 928 2nd Avenue? Do you have anyone?
Yeah, I don't see anybody as a panelist that would be representing this application, but yeah, if anybody else in the participant list might have joined from the application, but
okay, maybe
doesn't
we'll
look
give
like
them
it.
a
Yeah.
second.
Mhm.
But I also appreciate you updating me, but there are potentially 3 agenda items that share the same representative. So we as a committee should decide what to do about them if they don't show by the end of our meeting. I think in the past we've tabled their items and tried to reach out again to see what was going on, and then invited them to the next meeting. And then if not, then it goes in as a motion of objection because they couldn't take the time out to be here. But if anyone else has any other ideas, I'm obviously welcome to that. But again, having let a little time pass, we don't see any representative here from SIP-SAC. So I think we might just have to double check with them and talk about it at the next meeting, if that's okay with everyone here. Okay, and I think that's the case with the next agenda item as
Yeah.
well.
Mhm.
Okay. John DeVois, doing business as Sally's Cinnamon. I do love the name. Wish I could hear a little more about the business, but alas, we will skip this one too. And I'll give an opportunity to see if they joined by the end of the meeting, but it's not looking great at this point. So number 6 is a new on-premises license for 1-2 Thai Inc. at 153 East 33rd Street. Are the representatives from that building here tonight? Is that Martin?
Item 7.
Oh,
Just getting ready.
close. Getting ready. So no one from 1-2 Thai is here either?
Nice.
Yeah, I don't see the applicant here.
Closer.
They did receive a panelist invite, so there is a chance they might join later in the meeting, but what I can do is I can just keep a lookout to see if I see them join.
Okay, that would be great if you could do that, but I see Martin is here ready to go for item 7, which is a new on-premises license for 540 Second Avenue Restaurant LLC, doing business as the Crooked Knife on 540 Second Avenue.
Yes.
Which I
Thank
have
you.
here. And yeah, if you could just briefly walk us through your application.
I'm Martin Novar. I'm representing the applicant 540 Second Avenue Restaurant LLC. I'm here with Michael Griffith, who will be the manager, and he's an owner of this new establishment. Although it's an old establishment that everyone's familiar with, it's now the Waterfront Ale House that's been doing business on that corner at 30th Street and 2nd Avenue since 1995. And as far as I have found out, that corner has been licensed since at least 1953. The certificate of occupancy actually identifies the building as a bar, the first floor of the building as a bar and restaurant, a bar and grill, excuse me. The applicant is going to change the concept slightly to be another Crooked Knife. There are 2 other Crooked Knives right now, 14th Street between 7th and 8th Avenue and 30th Street between Madison and Park. They have fireplaces. They're more lounge-like. There might be, I think, 1 television for big events. They might bring out another television, but it's not really a place for sports. Background music. It's more loungy. They want to be a welcoming place for first responders and people from the hospitals, NYU and the other hospitals on First Avenue. If you know the area, it's very underserved, and it's very deserted, really, in terms of anywhere to go and have just a relaxing meal or get out of the office. It's a small establishment. There's 14 tables, 34 seats, maybe 10 at the bar. Hopefully with open seats, there'll be some outdoor tables, but that's to be determined. The hospitals and the first responders work 24 hours. They're looking to service that population, but to work towards that. Right now, they're expecting the kitchen to close around 11, but they're also aiming to open at 8 in the morning to do a breakfast and to provide kind of meeting space for those employees at the hospitals. There's only 3 other licensed establishments within 500 feet. Patty Riley's, Falte, and Dulcina Trattoria, which I understand is for sale. A little bit further, you've got Albion and Hill and Bay. Across the street from Waterfront Ale House is the Rite Aid and the movie theater and Fairway. And then, as you know, there's nothing else really in the area. There's 3 residents who are supportive of the restaurant and 2 offices. The current owners of Waterfront Ale House own the building, so they're familiar both with the neighborhood and the community and the residents and other occupants of the building. I guess that's an introduction. If there are any questions.
Thank you for being here and for walking us through that. I did see on your application that you're hoping to stay open until 4 a.m. Are other Crooked Knife locations open until that time? And are you aware of the hours of the Waterfront Ale House at this moment?
We're seeking, the 2 other Crooked Knives have 4 a.m. licenses, but they don't stay open till 4 a.m. But this location, we're looking, the Waterfront Ale House has a 4 a.m. license. It's not open that late, and we don't expect to be open that late initially until business establishes that there's a reason to be open that late. But we do believe that with the first responders and the hospitals working 24 hours, that there will be a demand for it, that it will be a good location for them. Again, it's going to be more loungy and restaurant-y, as well as a bar, but it's not seeking to be a busy bar till 4 a.m.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, usually when it's a new application, we encourage the establishment to just stay open until 2 a.m. At the latest. But, you know, after hearing your response and personally being familiar with your other locations, I would hope and can anticipate no problems from a later, license in this first time, but I would be open to other committee members' thoughts. And if I'm wrong here, we can definitely suggest you only stay open until 2. John?
Yeah, since it's been licensed till 4 and there haven't been problems, I'm inclined to agree with Claire. My only question is, I noticed that the premises seem to be in or part of a residential building. There seems to be an awning around the corner. Have there ever been complaints or issues from the neighbors? I haven't done my 311 search, so I don't know.
There are only 3 residential apartments.
Looks like 2 more. Okay.
Yeah, and 2 offices.
Okay. So the appearances are deceiving there. Okay.
Yeah, and
but,
John,
but
I
none
will
of
say,
but none of them have complained, right?
no.
Okay. All right.
The office usually sends me the complaints with the applications and Waterfront Ale House.
Yeah, I can now see that you have a psychic and some
the
other
psychic and
establishment
something else.
Okay. Thank you for considering my question.
Thanks for your question. Are there any other questions from committee members or members of the public, or any proposed resolutions from folks at this time?
Make a motion, no objection.
So
got it in
Anton makes
before
that
me.
motion, and maybe John can
I second it. Right. Yeah.
Thank you. And John, did you want to write this resolution?
I think I will.
Okay.
Send me the Kyle and I developed that template together about 4 years ago. So it's about time I did my part again. Okay.
Perfect. Well, nothing's been changed. It still is the same template. It'll be a breeze, and I appreciate you stepping up here. Both of you, Martin, and I forget your name, but thank
Michael.
you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we look forward to having the Crooked Knife in our neighborhood.
Excellent.
We'll
Thank
see
you.
Soon. Okay.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Next up is number 8, This is actually a renewal application for an on-premises license for El Mono LLC.
Claire,
which
sorry.
does- No
Just a
worries.
que-
Jeannie.
I'm
Sure.
sorry to interrupt. Did we not do, did we skip over one?
Yeah, so no one from 1-2 tie showed up, and then the
Well,
one before didn't have anyone show up either.
Old Stove Pub? Above Crooked Knife?
Oh, on my
I'm looking,
list.
I'm looking at online, I'm looking at Airtable, so.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
that's a little later. That's okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you for being on top of it. Yeah, I guess it didn't translate to the agenda in the
Okay,
same
yeah,
way.
I don't have the
but
agenda,
that one-
sorry, okay.
No worries. That one's going to be last on the
Okay,
agenda. So next up is a renewal application for an on-premises license for El Mono LLC, which is doing business as Casa Mono on 52 Irving Place. We brought this establishment in because we've had quite a few complaints ongoing and haven't really had a great time communicating with the licensees. So we thought that we would just bring them in and have them speak their piece. I know I've passed Casa Mono frequently, especially during the pandemic, and have had a hard time walking by myself. So I just can't imagine folks who are in wheelchairs or have strollers that are trying to pass. So if the folks from Casa Mono are here, you can unmute yourself, walk us through your renewal and kind of just speak to how you're going to, maybe be a little bit of a more positive neighbor with this renewal. I'll appreciate it. Andy, take it away.
Hi, thank you. I'm happy to be part of the community, and thank you for calling me. I am the chef and owner of Casa Mono. I've been there for 18 years. I love that corner. I love the community. And I've been receptive to improving. I have understood the guidelines, and I had tried to implement the outdoor seating by the guidelines. And as soon as I heard a complaint, I tried to address it. So there are a lot of changes that have happened since the original complaint. So I think that we've made the improvements necessary, but if we haven't, then I'm more than willing to do more. And of course, Michael Ferrari is here as well.
Good evening. I'm Michael Ferrari. I represent the establishment in its renewal, and I would like to say that the restaurant this will be its, I think, 9th renewal. It's been there 18 years, and Andy has been there since the beginning. And my understanding is that if there have been complaints over the 18 years, you could count them on one hand, and he's responded to them. I think that's fair to say. So this will be no different from the few things that have happened in the past. He brought this to my attention, and we have reviewed the area. I think the photos that we were sent, Andy can speak to this as well, showed a day. They were taken quite some time ago on a day that the restaurant was hanging up some vines for decorative purposes. That's important for two reasons. One, since that day, they have moved back the outside wall of that structure. So the photo shows the outside wall further, or rather closer to the curb than it stands today. And the second point is they've removed the vines as well, because it became clear that they were a disruption. They hung, even where people could walk, they hung in an area that would disturb people's ability to walk. So those are two things that they've done to address these issues. In addition to that, I'm going to work with them to communicate with the Department of Transportation to be sure that there is sufficient distance from the curb and from anything else on the sidewalk that would be required.
You show us pictures of what the establishment looks like today or yesterday, because the only ones that I have are
I have it. How do I do that? Can I email it or put it in the?
You can email it. You should be able to share your screen. There's like a green button at the bottom.
I see it. Okay, what I'll do is I want to bring up the photo. Okay, I'm going to share my screen now.
Great. And I think you should be able to just pick the photo instead of your whole screen, if that's easier.
Give me one moment.
Take your time.
Let me just make sure I'm doing this correctly. I'm struggling with this. It is.
No worries. You could also send it on email if that's easier, and then we could have it pulled up on the back end to BASA, BASA at CB6, the word written out, SIX.org.
Yeah, I know that I was communicating with you in like a email chain, so you can also send that there and I can just pull it up too if that works too.
Or to Alexandra at CB6.
Okay, I'll do that. I was communicating with Alexandra.
Do you have the pictures in an email, Michael, or should I email them to you?
I have it. I'm sending it right now to Alexandra at CB6. Would you finish it for me?
Actually, or just send it to the email you were emailing me before, BASA at cb6.org.
BASA at cb6.org. I'm sorry, it's not popping up for some reason, but I'm going to go ahead and send it right now. And it doesn't have a title. Okay, so I've sent you one that was taken earlier today, and I think you can once it comes up, you can compare it to the photo that you sent me.
Yeah, I just know, from the past, I think there's been a lot of outreach in addition to DOT representatives coming through and observing non-compliance. So that's why you're back here. I understand that you've been here in the neighborhood for a long time, and these are different times, but most businesses, when they get an email from us or from the Department of Transportation, they're incredibly responsive and make changes immediately. So that's why we brought you in here. And it's pretty easy to set something up the night before the meeting, but I would just encourage.
I think I was speaking to Andy, and he wasn't aware that you had contacted the restaurant, I guess previously. Is that right, Andy? I'll let him speak to that.
No, I mean, obviously, I would respond to any email if it was brought to my attention. If it wasn't brought to my attention, I'm very respectful of the community. I've been part of it forever. And like Michael had said, I don't have a lot of, I certainly respect the neighborhood, and I'm not trying to create any enemies. And I want to make sure that you understand that I'm complying with every wish with the DOT when they do come by. So, but yes, I think that once you see the illustration that Michael's going to email, if he hasn't already, it kind of speaks for the improvement that we were looking for.
Yeah, I didn't receive the email.
I sent it to CB6, the number. It's CB6 spelled out. Pardon me.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Sorry, it wasn't popping up. I found it. I've sent it now.
So Andy, do you have a piece of paper by your door that says, your contact information for neighbors? Because that is something that we as a committee ask all establishments to post outside of their door, should there be any questions or concerns about the business?
Absolutely, I'll make sure that that's there. Absolutely.
Okay, so we could send you that template, because that might be something that's a little bit more
100%.
recent if you've been here in a while. So that will be helpful, because as I'm looking at the emails, it did come from a constituent directly, and they might not have known to contact you. Thank you. Alexandra, can you zoom it in a little bit so we can see? This looks more like the tea shop.
I think you can tell that it's, if you compare it, I don't know if you're able to put the other one up as well, the one that was sent as a result of the complaint. But if you look at the, there are squares on the sidewalk, and so that's on 17th Street. So
this
does
not look like 8 feet to me.
Right.
I mean,
so this is, if you look here, you can see that it's behind the line. The wall there is behind the line, whereas on the picture that was sent, actually this is that's not the same corner. The other photograph that was sent showed Irving Place. So there are the restaurant is fronts on Irving and on 17th, and you can see that. Again, now these aren't the same corners, so I can't compare the
I'm
two.
a little bit more concerned about the 17th Street location now that that's pulled up. That cannot be 8 feet.
Well, and the difficulty here is with this photo is you can't see that there is an opening. So there is a planter there, and then in the area of the planter and beyond the area of the planter, it opens up. The wall is not there, right? So the border of that structure to the curb is greater than 8 feet. And in the area where
that we're seeing on the right side, on 17th Street,
right,
I'm talking about
on the right side. If you go from the border there to the curb, it's greater than 8 feet.
If you, can I just add one thing? If you go to Google Maps, I think the photo that you would look at for comparison is on Google Maps. I can put the link in the chat room.
Can you describe the picture, Jeannie?
You can pull it up I could pull it up on Google Maps if you'd like.
Okay. Yeah, you scroll through the pictures. There's a close up of the picture on the left before with the vines and all of that in front. That's now been removed.
Give me 1 second. I will pull that up.
You can see that it's got an extension. It's further out onto the sidewalk in this older picture on Google Maps compared to what it looks like now.
Right, and the picture I think that you're describing is the same picture that was sent to us. That's Irving Place.
Yeah, and that photo, there's usually a record. It was taken July 2021, as that's what the image capture is.
Does this look like what?
No.
Can you
it's just a close up of the front, not the box out on the street, not that whatever they call it out in the street. If you scroll through, if you hit the restaurant photos, no, like if you go to the now did you use the link in the chat room? I think that's.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see it.
Yeah, try that because it's a scroll of the photos of the food and it's. Yeah, try that one. That one.
Okay.
Is that the photo that was sent to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not the exact photo, but I guess I think it represents the old.
Okay.
The prior to it being moved, but I think you can see that it's in the new photo. That wall is further back. Am I saying that correctly, Andy?
No, you are correct. I mean, what has happened is that wall that has the signage that says Mono on it has moved 2 feet towards the building. So it used to be 8 feet, now it's 10 feet, and the vines are completely removed.
And I would say that this was done in response to a communication from the Department of Transportation. They were made aware of that, the necessity for that by that communication. We will continue to communicate with the Department of Transportation if there are additional changes that are required.
Did they communicate back with you once you made the changes that everything was up to their standards?
It's been an ongoing conversation. I think they have been. It's been, but I don't think the answer is that we have a final determination. Part of I haven't been with Andy on this matter prior to recently, and I think he's brought me in to facilitate that communication so I can increase the communication and address the problem more quickly if there is an ongoing problem. But the shorter answer to that is we don't know the answer. I would like to work on it some more, and I'm happy to communicate with you further if that will if that's an appropriate way to approach this.
Okay, John, do you have a question?
Yeah, and on the photo that's on the screen now,
Mhm.
that doesn't look like 8 feet. Was that what
No
you were
way.
saying?
Yeah,
But,
I mean,
Right,
and I think
right.
that 17th Street is even worse, honestly, in my opinion. This might be 6 feet, which isn't standard, but around the corner is really concerning for me. So
let
I
me
think
make
we
two.
need to get some inspectors back out there or something.
Let me make 2 points. I'm not just necessarily disputing what you're saying, but I want to make 2 points. So the distance between the wall and the curb, leaving aside the planter, the distance between the wall and the curb, that is 8 feet. That's we're confident in that.
You have to leave space to pass at the smallest distance of
So
8 feet. So it's,
right. So
I'm looking at the planter.
Right. And I wanted to address that. The planter, if you look at the planter, and this is the same around the corner on 17th, the distance between the planter and while the where the wall would be maybe less than 8 feet, but the wall has been opened up specifically for that purpose in response to a communication from the Department of Transportation. So that was the effort that was made. We hadn't gotten a final determination that it is acceptable, but that was the intention. There was a wall there previously. It is no longer there. In addition, there are no tables just if you look to the left of where that wall would be, there are no tables there. There is space there. There's open sidewalk.
Okay.
So the idea, and look, especially since COVID, this committee has been bending over backwards to find ways to improve things. So, but what I'm seeing here is if 2 people are walking with strollers down there, one of them has to sort of go in on the left side there, so they can keep walking. I'm just trying to figure this out, how this works. There's an entrance, there's an opening there that they then, go into in order to be able to keep walking. I'm just asking a question.
I mean, I don't have an exact answer to that. We made an effort they made an effort to follow the guidelines, follow the rules of allowing for the necessary 8 feet. If it's not following the spirit of the law, it is certainly following the letter of the law. But we can, as I say, we can communicate with the Department of Transportation to find out their interpretation of it and further communicate with you about what we will or must do. But I only make this point to tell you that it has been an ongoing process and effort. And,
understood. And as I said, this committee has been bending over backwards, to try to figure out a way to make things work. I leave it up to Claire to decide how we should proceed here.
Yeah, I think that the last communication that I heard from DOT was like back in March. And as John said, we've been like incredibly supportive of businesses, especially when they've been responsive and adaptive to the regulations out there. And I think that you being here and willing to work with us and talk to us, I am not impressed by these pictures, frankly, from last night. Like, I wish that you all went out with a measuring tape and showed that there is in fact 8 feet. So I am inclined to resolve to no objection with stipulations that we should ask a DOT inspection to happen again in the near future to ensure that what you're saying is true. I don't know if anyone else from the committee has any other thoughts or suggestions, but I think that we have to have kind of a clause on the renewal.
I would
to
only ask
ensure
for,
that there is.
I would
8
only
feet
ask for something
passageway
a little,
at the
I would ask,
shortest.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I would
No,
ask
you
that,
interrupted already, so continue.
I really didn't mean to. I'm just having trouble hearing. I apologize. I would ask that rather than the resolution as you're suggesting, that you allow the licensee an opportunity to communicate on it with the Department of Transportation on its own, to come back to you and to make whatever changes are required of it. And if is not met, if that requirement isn't met with, then at that time, then you could seek out an additional inspection.
Okay, I'm fine to table this and not resolve anything until our next meeting. And then we could have a conversation with DOT. Maybe you all can provide some clearer pictures for us. But I will just say that that would mean that we wouldn't be submitting any resolutions until next month, the end of October.
I would be comfortable with that. I think unless Andy tells me that would not be acceptable, I would recommend that from our perspective. Obviously the committee would decide.
Yeah, I'm sure that we could come to a conclusion. I mean, I know that this one picture doesn't seem to be representative of what's happening, but when the original structure was built, the wall to the curb per the DOT diagram was 8 feet. Since then, we moved it 2 feet towards the building, so it's more than 8 feet to the curb. It's the planter area that's the issue. So then we opened up the wall, which you cannot really illustrate on the angle of this photograph, but we will do anything that you would like. So that's the bottom line. We want to communicate. So
why don't you bring, and I appreciate that. So we'll put you on the agenda for next meeting, and you all can bring a little bit more like illustrative photos that really show what you're explaining, because I kind of understand what you're talking about, and I appreciate your willingness to adapt.
Have photographs, and I guess I don't want to take too much time of your time this evening, so should we wait till the next time, or because we took more pictures than this, but whatever you prefer.
Well, I actually just want to know for Alexandra, what's the timeline for the state? Is this something that we do have to settle on before next month, or can they come back next month?
I might have to look into that, but Jesus, do you know?
When is this up for renewal? What is the date?
It's up.
Let me see.
It's up for renewal at the end of next month, at the end of October.
All right, at the end of
So
next
October 31st.
Okay, at the end of next month. And so then a resolution from us would not be able to come until early to mid-November. But a draft resolution might be available at that point. It's cutting it a little close, but I think we could make it work if they come back next month. I would say, though, it sounds like Mr. Nusser said that there are additional pictures. If he's able to share his screen and show them, maybe that might satisfy the committee.
Yeah, you should have the ability to share your screen. So.
All right. I have the pictures on my phone, so I'm going to email them to you if that's all right.
Yeah, you can email them to us. Just email them to the same email that we were talking about, basa@cbsix.org.
And I apologize. BASA
at cbsix.org. So CB6 spelled out, all lowercase.
The BASA at SBSIX.org. .org.
It's CB.
CB like community board.
Okay.
Or if you know how to do it, you can just share your screen directly from your computer.
I also put it in the chat. I don't know if that makes it a little more complicated or if that's easier, but the email is in our chat as well.
Here, I'm going to send, I can send one right now.
Oh, you can? Okay.
Yeah, I'm.
Claire, one thing you might also want to try, if this is something that can be resolved without necessarily having to wait to the next month, you write the resolution as you propose, and then if between now and full board in October, the establishment shows additional documentation, or we're able to verify a better distance for passing, someone could just amend the clause out that has the additional stipulation.
I think that's okay. I think
I just sent it to BASA@cb6.org.
Yeah, I received it. Give me 1 second. I will share my screen.
Thank you, and I apologize for the inconvenience.
No, it's totally fine. I think that I like Jesus's idea to kind of go ahead with my suggestion, and I see a thumbs up from John, and then we at the October full board meeting will continue to communicate until then, and we'll follow up with our DOT contact as well to make sure that they went back and re-inspected and everything is good to go. And then once we're at the meeting, we can amend the resolution to just be one of no objection once we know that there is enough space out there.
We have heard from DOT that right now they're a little bit stretched on their inspectors. As you can imagine, there's a lot to inspect, and so we don't, we shouldn't be surprised if it's maybe takes a little bit of a time to get back to get an inspector back there.
Okay. That's okay too. I think that, a lot of us live in the neighborhood as well and have means to measure on our own. So even if it's a guerrilla attempt, we can go out there as well. And since this was open with DOT, I wonder if they might be a little bit more inclined to go out there in a quicker manner, but we can definitely continue the conversation and keep it going. But I think that a resolution of no objection with the stipulation that there is 8-foot clearance is how we should go at this point. And then we'll maintain communication. And then once we get to the full board, there can be an amendment. Yeah, that looks pretty similar to the picture that I saw.
That's 17th Street in comparison to the other one.
Right. So I was more concerned with 17th Street. And you're saying that that opening is where folks would slide in and come back out.
Right.
I had, I think I've sent another.
Oh, sorry for interrupting you now, Michael. I just want to
that is now Irving. That's Irving Place. So we open it up where the planter is.
And there's no tables there
at
all.
Correct.
So the shelter is just a shelter for folks who are waiting to go into the establishment, or do you
That's the entryway into the restaurant. So the front door is right in front if you went straight in that opening. So you couldn't put a table there if you wanted to.
Okay. So
that's Irving Place. So that's what it was. And that's 17th now.
Okay. I'm still feeling that we should continue the conversation and do the suggestion that Jesus said. Once we, are there and really get to witness it and what it looks like, and maybe a few of us can walk through and kind of share observations internally, then we'll be able to do an amendment at the full board. meeting. Does anyone else have any ideas or suggestions, or does that sound good to folks? Is there a resolution that someone wants to propose? I can't, but I would if I could.
Okay, this is a little bit going to be like what Claire said. Claire, I would accept the wording that you just made. I don't want to change it in the risk of diluting it. But the idea is that we're going to. Well, why don't if you could just.
Yeah. So like a resolution of no
objection
to the renewal, as long as all DOT stipulations for open dining have been observed to be within their regulations.
So no objection to the renewal as long as all DOT regulations with regard to open dining have been observed to their acceptance, to their satisfaction.
Exactly. Thank you, John. And
I think we need to have the the name of the manager available for the public as well.
Thank you, Seema. Good reminder. Yeah. So Andy, you had said that you'll post your name and a phone number that neighbors can contact if they have trouble passing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, and it's funny too, because I've been part of this community forever, and usually, I know everyone in the neighborhood. So,
I know.
and of course, the super and the landlady and everybody else. I've been part of this community, so I
completely understand. It's in
the
flux.
last thing I really want to do is ruin someone's day, right? Particularly in that neighborhood. Right.
Yes, and likewise here, we're, as John said, like all about supporting businesses, but we're also all about supporting folks who have limited mobility.
In this way that you think that I wasn't, communicating on purpose, because I that's not me.
No, thank you.
I apologize for that.
I appreciate. No. We are all on the same team here, and we understand. We'll just keep the conversation going, and be in touch. But I think John suggested that, and Seema added with the additional stipulation of having a sign with contact information there. So does anyone second that resolution?
I second.
Thank you, Susan. So,
and there's a template I can find online to fill out to put in the window.
You know what? Actually, yeah. We'll send that to you. The board office will send that to you, and I can do this resolution because it's a little complicated. So I'll work on this. But thank you for being here, and thank you for talking it through, and thanks to the members for being here as well. But yeah, we will be in touch. The office will be in touch with you, Andy and Michael, moving forward, and we'll keep you posted. But thanks again for being here and for your willingness to adapt and continue to be a wonderful neighbor.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Take care. So next on the agenda is a new on-premises license for Molly Gramercy, doing business as Molly at 391 2nd Avenue. And I'm pretty sure that this is the third of the representation that did not show. Is that right, Alexandra?
Yeah, and I don't believe that I see the lawyer or the applicant in the participants or attendees list. So, yeah.
So thank you. Let's table that again and reach back out, and we'll talk about them next month. Finally, the 10th item is what Jeannie caught, a new on-premises license for Eastside Entertainment LLC, doing business as Old Stove Pub at 1076 First Avenue. Joseph, are you the representative for this?
Yes, good evening. How's everyone?
Great.
I'm actually the owner.
The owner, wonderful. Thank you for joining us. Do you mind walking us through your application briefly? It's been a long meeting, so as quick as you can be.
I've been in the restaurant business since I was a child. I live in the Hamptons and on 48th and 2nd. I took over the Old Stove Pub in Sagaponack last June, and it was literally falling apart. I'm in real estate and construction, so I restored it, brought it back to life, and it, even amidst COVID, it's become one of the most well-liked and respected restaurants in the Hamptons. I have a huge following, a huge East Side clientele. We're still open, still very busy, and I guess it was a bit of insanity, but I miss New York. I miss going in. I have a 4.5-year-old, so I want her to experience New York as I did, but I'm not one to just sit home. Tonight's actually the second time I'm home since I've opened the restaurant, because I wanted to get away from the space so I could be here for this meeting. And 4 Cuts, I walked in, it had the same silverware, table settings, glasses on the tables. It's actually kind of a shame that they abandoned it 4 years ago. And I made a decision to take it literally that day. I looked at a couple other places in the neighborhood. I said, you know what? That place is screaming Old Stove Pub. And I made a deal, and I'm not changing much. It just needs some love, and I'm bringing the Old Stove Pub steakhouse concept to New York City.
Thank you.
Oh, did you hear all that? I'm sorry. I wanted to
Yes,
make it
sorry,
brief.
I was on mute. Just to be clear, you are applying for a full liquor license.
Oh yeah, I have beer, wine, drinks, cocktails. We sell a lot of martinis.
Okay. So that was my question, because I'm not sure if it's that clear on the application, but we will note that. And you're going to be closed by 10 p.m. Is that right?
We close our kitchen now at 10. I don't anticipate, I'd like to keep the kitchen open till 10. So that means we'd be closing, it's hard to say. It's a long day. It's hard to get staff. It's hard to stay open late. People used to dine out later. They're dining out earlier. So, I'd assumingly, say we're going to be open to midnight, but I don't know if I'm going to keep my kitchen open to midnight.
Okay, we just need it for the resolution, like your hours of operation. So would you say like midnight would be your closing time?
Well, did I say 2 a.m.? I try to get a copy of what I said. I answered everything so quickly. I wasn't,
I'm looking at it and I'm seeing hopefully 7 days a week for lunch and dinner, opening at 11:30, kitchen closing at 10 p.m. But I'm just asking for a little bit more specific in terms of, we're focused more on like the liquor license side of it. So how late will you be serving liquor on a daily basis?
Well, I'd like to just say have the flexibility of 2 o'clock.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. We just need it for the resolution, and 2 o'clock is reasonable in our neighborhood, especially for a new establishment. If it was closer to 4, we would have to have a conversation about it, but we'll note that.
Well, I can't make it past midnight myself, so
Right. Oh, I
two
see.
is fine. Two is fine.
No, same here. I am getting tired already. So, okay, we'll mark that. But that was just a question that I had. Does anyone else in the committee have questions for Joseph? Thanks for being here.
Motion of no objection.
Thank you, Susan. Does anyone second that?
I'll second.
Thank you, Anton. So yeah, we will write a motion of no.
Comments from the public. I there's still attendees in the We have 3 attendees. Do you have to ask whether or not there are comments from the?
I think that they would have raised their hand by now.
Okay,
but
okay, fine.
we can ask.
It's the
if anyone-
formality, that's all. I don't know if you need to go
Yes.
through the formality.
I don't see any raised hands or questions and answers in the chat. So I think what Susan brought up, resolution of no objection, and Anton seconded it, is what we'll go with for now. Does anyone have a burning desire to write this resolution? I think it's going to be an easy one, so I would ask you to.
I could take this.
Yeah, I can.
Now we have too many. Jeannie, you want to do that? Because you're.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take this one, the first one and this one, that's fine.
Thank you. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, we'll stop by.
It's a nice spot. It's a beautiful old restaurant. I mean, it looks old, so I'm excited about it.
We're excited for you as well. Thank you so much for being here, Joseph, and we'll see you around the neighborhood
All
and at
right.
the restaurant. Appreciate
Have a
you.
good evening. Thank you so much.
You too. Take care. Okay, thank you, everyone. Alexandra, we haven't had anyone show up for the 4 items that we skipped over, right?
No, I do not see anybody else.
Okay, so I think that you have been communicating with them and they haven't really been responsive, but as we have been operating during this time, we like to give the businesses a little bit of slack in these times. So I think that we'll give them an opportunity to show up at the next meeting, and then we can have a bigger conversation if they don't show up next month. Does that sound good to everyone? I'm seeing some head nods, some thumbs up. So let's just continue on as we have in the past and do that. Other than that, I don't really have a report prepared, unfortunately, so I think I'm going to waive that. But I would welcome any old or new business if folks have that. Kevin? You're on mute.
Now I'm unmuted. Thank you, Claire. This may cross over into transportation, but it's also a business matter. I've had a number of community members tell me they're upset as a result of Amazon and Fresh Direct and other companies' unauthorized usage of streets and sidewalks to process packages. Now, these are often dozens of large containers carrying hundreds of packages spread out over ample pieces of real estate. This has blocked pedestrians and bicyclists and provides free processing hubs for these companies on city property. Now, just for one example of this, on East 36th Street between First Avenue and the Tunnel Approach Street, this stretch has been a pilot open street that ran each Saturday and Sunday this month. And now the MTA, which has an authority there because the street is next to the Queens Midtown Tunnel, is now balking at continuing the open street program. Yet there is a constant flow on that street of unauthorized delivery services, including large delivery trucks. The trucks park for hours on the street, which has signs that declare that the stretch is for, quote, MTA bus layover only, unquote. Questions: why aren't Amazon and Fresh Direct and others instructed to lease one or more of the many vacant properties in the area to handle this processing? Or why aren't they being asked to find a lawful place to do this business, especially when the MTA is saying they don't know if an open street should continue there? I'm thinking perhaps we can find somebody with the MTA and or elsewhere with the city to address this in committee.
Thank you for bringing that up. I mean, I have no idea, but I have a inkling that it has to do with money and the amount of money that those places have, and they're probably able to pay any tickets that they get if they do get them. But I think that what you're saying is it's definitely part of our issue, but I would say that it's probably more of a transportation issue in terms of like allocation of street space, but maybe we can talk about it in more depth leading up to the next meeting and see what we find about that. SEMA might have another.
We can talk to Transpo Committee
Yeah.
as well, but
I'll talk to Jean.
and I wouldn't bring this up if it hasn't been mentioned by many community members.
Yep. SEMA.
Claire, I just wanted to pick your brain. I remember from exec, there was something that was somewhat outstanding that we wanted to think about doing, like a potential joint thing. It was with
thank you
I'm
for
trying
bringing
to
that.
yeah that
That-
sparked something for you. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
It was about two resolutions that were supporting delivery workers.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And I think, sorry, I'm just trying to look this up, but I know that the gist of it is that both of those resolutions passed in the city council. So there's not really like a need for us to support them, but I have to do my own research on this because I've been away, but it is a big win for delivery workers in terms of, I think it's like being able to use the bathroom and the establishments that they're picking food up from. And also, I forget what the topic of the other one was, unfortunately, but maybe Alexandra or Jesus can help here. Yeah. Oh, sorry, here it is. So there were two delivery worker bills that we were going to bring up. But since the bills have been passed, there's not much that we can do except for raise awareness for them. And I unfortunately meant to become more aware myself, but I don't really know what they were all about.
They were removed when they passed the city council essentially like the day after exec. And so the transportation committee decided to remove them from their agenda because they passed with a lot of support, and the mayor expressed interest in signing them. So they figured no sense in being redundant. So that's why they're off the agenda now.
Makes sense.
Yes,
Thanks.
and I'll just do a little bit more research and be able to explain about what exactly those bills were. But I do know that one was about, I think it was kind of just like funds that go to delivery workers in general and to ensure that they're getting compensated for the work that they do, in addition to not being, excluded from any like bathroom in a establishment that is using a third-party service. So stay tuned for a little bit more information on that. And thanks again, SEMA, for bringing that up. And I'm sorry that I am not as prepared.
One of those intros would require third-party delivery services to provide delivery workers with the option to set maximum distances for trips and to let them accept or reject routes requiring travel using bridges or tunnels without being penalized. And the other one would require the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection to study the working conditions of third-party delivery workers, including income, equipment expenses, required equipment, hours worked, and safety, and then promulgate rules establishing the minimum per trip payments for these workers.
That's one of the problems with Amazon, just to chime in right here real quick, as opposed to like a UPS. Amazon's a third party. They're actually not employees of Amazon. So they're like contractors, a third party, people own different routes or whatnot. And they, sadly in New York, and I'll just give my experience with my building, is that these package delivery people have way too many packages to deliver. They don't have time to bring them to each residence. They wind up, basically they're underpaid, they're neglected, they don't, and that's the problem where you probably see all these boxes in the street, is that they give them way too many packages and then they got to dump them out of the street and sort them out right there, as opposed to doing some kind of sort at the warehouse.
Yes, so we'll do a little bit more research on, street space allocation, but it is encouraging that the council is fighting for worker protection finally. So thank you again, Seema, for bringing that up. Does anyone else have anything to add, or do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Seema. We don't need to vote on that. So with that being said, this meeting is adjourned at 8:42 p.m. Thank you, everyone, for stepping up to write resos.